This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. One of the things I like to do during the break is get back into the film room and get fresh eyes on old tape. And given that the Browns have a quarterback competition, I thought it'd be only right to get fresh eyes on some old tape for both of the main competitors in this quarterback competition. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to do a 4-video series reviewing some of the old tape of Deshaun Watson and some of the old tape of Shedeur Sanders. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to look at what I feel like was the most complete game that they've put on tape so far, break it down, what could have been better, what is better there, what you want to see them replicate from that game going forward. And if you think that that is replicatable and all of that stuff, we're going to talk about that and break down the game that focuses on that in a separate video. We'll go through what I feel like was each player's worst performance, right? So for Deshaun Watson, that means looking at the last game, he was healthy, according to him, which is this Tennessee game. I know some people will make the argument that the Baltimore game is his best game. I think that's his biggest win in Cleveland. I don't think that's his best 4-quarter performance in Cleveland. I think the Tennessee game is the best for 4 quarters that Deshaun Watson has looked, and it's also what Deshaun Watson describes as the last time he's healthy, which is why we're going to review this specific game for his best game here in Cleveland. I have the clips here divided into short passes and then intermediate and long passes. The diet for this game was pretty simple, and Kevin Stefanski, I thought, did a great job calling this game against Tennessee. He tends to do a good job being able to scheme up Mike Vrabel defenses. He did even a decent job of it this year, even though the Patriots were a Super Bowl contender. Well, no, not just they were in the Super Bowl this year, right? Being able to scheme them up early on in that game. Obviously, the talent gap got to the Browns eventually, but I thought Kevin did a good job against the Patriots here, and he did a great job. He was really in his bag against the Tennessee Titans here, and again, there wasn't a talent gap. The Browns actually had the talent gap advantage, which overwhelmed Tennessee in this one. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the All-22 with Deshaun Watson versus the Tennessee Titans, get some fresh eyes on what I felt like was his best performance. And the main reason I want to do this is when we don't revisit stuff, but we think about it and reference it all the time, what happens is that we romanticize it. Or I don't know what the opposite of romanticize is, but demonize, I guess, would be the term, right? And we make it either better than it actually was or worse than it actually was. Like, how many times have you spent years talking about a movie you watched as a kid, and you go back and you watch that movie and you're like, I don't know why I love this so much. It's because you've built up a romanticized image of it because you spent a lot of time referencing your love for that movie, but not really going back and watching it. This is why I want to go back, right? For Deshaun Watson, I don't want to get caught up in the romanticized image of what Watson was when he was healthy. Let's go back and watch it and evaluate it. And then also for the negative part of Watson, I don't want to get too caught up in the negative emotions that Deshaun Watson made me and a lot of Browns fans feel in 2024, and just go back and revisit the tape and really see how bad it was. Sometimes it's sobering how much of a reminder it gives you of how bad things were. Sometimes it's like, okay, it wasn't that bad. But that's what the goal of this project is, right? Let's get out of romanticizing and referencing stuff, and let's just get back to watching it again. Because it's amazing how your opinion can change the further away from the actual thing that you get. But rewatching it can sometimes remind you of why you had that opinion in the first place. So that's what we're going to do. But before I get into that, got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy Judkins, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game is going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to be looking at the Cleveland Browns Tennessee Titans game 2023, what I felt like was Watson's most complete performance as a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to go through here. This isn't every play, right? This is a selected playlist of plays that I have chosen. So this isn't every throw or representative of what the diet for the passing attack looked like. Again, it leaned more short passes than long passes, and a lot of it was Kevin Stefanski doing a good job of identifying holes in Tennessee's game. But I thought Deshaun Watson legitimately played well in this one, as good as he's ever played. All right, so, well, as good as he's ever played in Cleveland. So let's jump back to it. It's the first play that we have here. We're going to look at the short throws first and then get to the longer stuff. This is, I think, the number one skill set that you hope Deshaun Watson can still retain going into 2026 if he is going to play games for us, is this skill right here, right? This is the one thing that he did not lose in the translation from Houston to Cleveland, right? Is his ability to withstand contact and then make a play after it, right? It's interesting with both of the Browns quarterbacks right now, Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. Both of these guys are players who do their best work recently when playing a little off schedule. Now, you can't build a whole offense off of that, and that's kind of the problem the Browns have had over the last few years, is that you can't build an offense over, chaos. But this is one of the qualities that Deshaun has had that was elite when he was at Houston and maintained at that level in Cleveland, right? The ability to just slip off of contact. It's going to be interesting to see if he still has that ability post-Achilles surgery. He seems healthy, but I don't know if there are things that get lost in translation to get to healthy. But that's something there. And then really nice job by him to identify the flat, sees the linebacker going down, right? And this is basically how you teach it up, You let this player right here make the decision for you. Is he going to come and try to attack me in the flat area and try to tackle me behind the line of scrimmage? If he does, then I have an open man here. Does he go and attack there? If he does, I can put my foot down, cut middle field, slide, get a first down real quick, right? So you don't have to make the decision. You let that guy make the decision for you. Deshaun does a good job of letting that guy make the decision for him. He tries to kind of cut the middle difference here. Deshaun layers this ball over him, and then a good job by Elijah Moore, catching, turning, running, getting a nice play out of it. So all in all, nice stuff there. This is the Browns running what looks like 22, but it's not, because I believe that's Elijah Moore back there. So this is a screen that they're running, right? They're showing Elijah Moore in the backfield to give something for these linebackers to alert to, some candy here. Because when you line Elijah Moore up back here, right, what this signals to these three linebackers, right, they get the exclamation part over their heads, right? Oh, wow, what's that? That's different. That's not normal. Let's look at that. So they're going to run this over here, and that's going to be a decoy, right? So that this half of the field is taken up. The Browns are even run actioning towards this way as a hard fake, and then they send two guards over late. This is a great design by Kevin. This is when Kevin was in his bag as a play designer, right? This is why in 2023, I had a lot of belief in Kevin Stefanski. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, he hasn't really showed this level of creativity or use this kind of creativity to evolve the offense in the way that you would want to. But this is the stuff that made you believe in Kevin, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is just beautiful design here, right? You get these guys over, run action, slide over two guys after the fact. You get half of the defense to commit hard to this side of the field, and then you can slip out a screen here. Unfortunately, the execution by the players isn't amazing here because Ethan Posick, who kicks out, doesn't get a good enough block here. But if Ethan Posick just finishes that block, that's a touchdown. That's a beautiful design there. That is a touchdown right there. So, I mean, Deshaun did what he needed to, got back on his foot, got the ball out on time. Nice poise there by Deshaun. Great design by Kevin here. And boy, did we just got to execute there. That's football, though. That's football. You could be 3/4 of the way there, still lose 2 yards. Because think about that, man. The Browns are pretty much 95%. They did 95% right here in this play to get a 60-yard touchdown. But because 5% of the play went wrong, they don't get 60 yards in the touchdown. They actually lose like 3. Brutal game, man. Football is such a brutal game. All right. Nice little quick decision here by Deshaun. Again, good identification here. You can see right now that it's off coverage pre-snap. Let's see what they line up in pre-snap. Yeah, off coverage pre-snap. You can look at the down and distance here. So it looks like they're playing the sticks right here. Ooh, sorry, that's a bad line. They're playing the sticks right here because it's 3rd and 6, the down and distance. And they're going to run Elijah just underneath here. And it's a good play call here because they're basically betting if we get this ball out on time, Elijah can make a move, get to that first down marker. They end up being correct. So, again, good play design, really just good play call. Simple execution is necessary here for Deshaun. This is a simple, okay, it's off coverage. Let's confirm and get our foot down and drive it. And this is simple execution. And it's a first down. Another 3rd and 3 here. And this is bad by Deshaun. Let's go through it. Right. So what does he end up doing? He ends up throwing a little check down here to Jerome Ford. Tries to dump this off. It's just a bad throw. You know, you never, ever, 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 ever in the NFL want to be behind a player in the middle of the field. It's 3rd and 3, so I'm not going to be too mad at him trying to just get the ball out here. I do question, though, why Deshaun didn't like the strong side of the field here. Strong side's wherever the tight end is. Because I feel like you got what you wanted here out the strong side of the field with this look. So, you know, that's a question. Looks like a pick-a-side read. We know that the Kevin Stefanski offense had a ton of pick-a-sides, right, where you split the defense into 2. And pre-snap, you pick a side. Looks like Deshaun picked this side here. I don't know what the numbers are, but it looks like 4-2 here. And it looks more even here. So I don't know why he picked this number. Maybe when he saw the linebacker kind of head towards this seam, that made him pick that side. But you can see here, this is wide open for a first down. And it's a pretty easy passing lane for him to get to. You know, they pretty much lock this up here. This is pretty well covered here. This is open. So just the question when you get him on the sideline is, what didn't we like here? You know, what didn't we see? And I think what he didn't see is this blitz, right? So you can see, I think that's a safety because he's wearing number 24. He blitzes. And that opens up the void here for, I think that's Orson Charles. Is that Orson Charles? But 84 opens up the void there. We got to get that ball out. We got to get that to him. And yeah, I don't mind getting the ball out here. But this ball has to be where Jerome Ford is expecting it. You got to have a better expectation of each other. And look, this is just kind of a result of these two players not playing with each other a ton. But yeah, I mean, that could have easily turned into an interception the other way. And then look at the part of the field you are on, right? Look at how dangerous that could have gotten there. And it's especially not great when you have a viable option at the bottom of your screen here. So, yeah. All right, let's continue. And that's the one thing I have noticed by going back and watching the good Deshaun stuff. Still, he at no point in his Browns career did he thrive versus cover two. Like that's still been a problem. And, you know, the one thing that's been consistent throughout every year, no matter whether he's healthy or not, versus pressure, diagnosing blitzes, not as good as you would want him to be for a guy who was marketed to you as more of a cerebral quarterback, right? Like that was one of the elements of Deshaun's game that was supposed to be like high level. And it's not high level when you watch him in Cleveland. So those two things, like, I don't know how much that gets better because he's healthy, right? And the reason I'm wanting to do this video again is I want to know what a healthy Deshaun Watson looks like, right? Because I think people are saying healthy Deshaun Watson and then automatically assuming 2020 Deshaun Watson is what healthy Deshaun Watson looks like. But that's not the case. The league has changed a lot since the last time he was really successful at quarterback. And I think the league is still going to present him a lot of problems with what they like to do now and what they have on him that he struggles with. That's not going to go away just because he's healthy, right? Cover two still struggles with cover two. And, you know, pressure, not really great throwing against pressure. Running against pressure is pretty good. But throwing against pressure, not that good. Okay, so this is a cover two look here. And again, like it's not terrible what he ends up doing here, right? He gets his back foot. He just throws this thing out to Elijah Moore. That could have easily been dangerous here because, again, look at what they're running right here, right? They're running cover two. How can you tell it's cover two? They didn't really hide it. But, you know, like this is a too high shell, right? What's the shell here? Too high. And then as you're snapping the ball, these safeties are going back into their too high look. Linebacker holding middle. So it's not really a Tampa 2 where this linebacker would go all the way back here and it would be like a de facto cover 3. He's just holding middle right here. I mean, this is classic cover 2, right? And again, when you see cover 2, there are a couple of things that you like to hit on cover 2, right? These are called hole shots, wherever you would see them, where there's an opportunity to hit the hole on cover 2. This is what the hole on cover 2 is referring to, right? Because again, if I draw out cover 2 again, we're going to see here, what's the hole in, what's the hole in cover 2, right? When I draw cover 2 like this. I know this isn't the greatest drawing of all time. But again, the hole in cover 2 is right here and right here. So when you throw in that spot, it's called a hole shot, right? It could be a variety of different routes that you use to hit it, but it looks like the Browns are pretty clearly trying to get a hole shot on 2 here. Because this is what? And I think this is what they're running. Yeah. So that's what they're running. They're trying to get a hole shot on 2 here. I'm surprised that his eyes went to that side of field because, again, there seems like there's more in conflict here on this half of the field for this play. Because you have the tight end in the flat. You got David sitting over the ball here, which is a zone beater. So, like, David's probably doing the right thing here. I wonder if Elijah Moore didn't recognize that this was zone. He kind of sits. No, he did. He sits. So, they recognize it's zone, and that's fine there. Again, I'm not going to ding him for this. I just would love to know whether he liked this whole shot here, because I think you have a good look here on this side, especially if you watch this release. Like, let's watch this side right here. I'm going to circle it for you guys. So watch the bottom of your screen. This release tells me I need to give that whole shot a go right there. But he almost like instinctually just goes for this little sit out, right? I think at times Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, especially in Kevin's offense, and this is where you can maybe hope for there be some difference in him with Kevin's offense versus with Todd's offense. At times, it felt a little too conservative, his decision making. Like, he was playing a little scared here, where like he just knew when he saw this off coverage that he could get 3 yards, and that was worth more than anything else that he can get there. Certain situations of the game, I'm actually gonna want you to do that, right? First quarter, 3-0. I don't know if that's what I'm on, right? I think I'm more comfortable taking a chance when they're giving you a look here. And I thought that you had 2 pretty good looks here at getting that hole shot, because at the top, you have your best receiver, one-on-one coverage with the safety who's kind of a little bit too far over. So like that right there, I like that look here. And then here at the bottom of your screen, I mean, Peoples-Jones just completely wins. That corner ends up on the ground. That's a hole shot right there waiting to happen. I can understand if it was 3rd down. Maybe you're playing with a lead in the 4th quarter. You just want to be safe here. I think that can be more understandable, but I think this falls into the category of just being a little bit over conservative and not willing to take a risk here where it's possible, which is kind of what Deshaun Watson's play devolved into over the course of the next 20 weeks with him of football. Because like even in this game, you could see it. If you go back and you watch the Baltimore game, you could see it is him just taking a less and less risk with the football and feeling comfortable doing less and less with the ball. Now, some people think that's a Kevin Stefanski problem, and I think there's evidence to demonstrate that, yeah, it's completely not a Kevin Stefanski issue, that this has happened to multiple quarterbacks that he's quarterbacked, that he's coached. But, yeah, this is something that maybe Todd Monken does change, where I think Deshaun got a little bit too conservative in this Browns offense here. Again, the escapability that he has is the trait that you hope that you see early on when you put him in live contact situations, because that never really went away. So you want to make sure he retains that. Let's continue. All right, this is an empty look here. And again, this is a good game for him. Right, we're looking for flaws. We're probing for issues, but we're also looking for what he does well. What I really like about this play, he makes a decision, he rips it. Is it the best decision he could have possibly made in this play? No, but sometimes you just need to make a decision here, right? To get you to a better spot instead of take a sack. Like, I'd rather you make the third best decision and get 6 yards than you not make a decision and lose 10 yards because you got sacked. So is it the best decision that he could have made? No. I'll highlight to you what I feel like the best decision could have been here, which is David Njoku in the slot, unathletic linebacker on him in man coverage, and just watch David Njoku completely whoop him. That's a touchdown there. So that's the best decision he could have made. I also think that you had a good look here to Peoples-Jones at the top of your screen, and you also had Amari Cooper here. Like, I think that you had a plethora of good options here. And, like, what? You got Amari Cooper right here. This DB's off balance. He looks at it. He doesn't take it. I don't know why. And sometimes it happens with Deshaun where he looks at it. He doesn't want it. You got to figure out why he didn't want it. And there's sometimes a good explanation for it, but oftentimes not. I can understand not wanting to go to Peoples-Jones here because he's a little bit late here, but he's going to pop open here. This is the look that you probably want to take, right, is the David Njoku one. It's 2nd and 10. You're in field goal range. If you feel like you could get an accurate ball, which I have no reason to believe Deshaun felt like he couldn't get an accurate ball here because he has pretty good protection on this play, I see no reason not to rip that one, right? You know, but this is what I'm talking about with, like, I feel like Watson, even when he was healthy in 2023, even when he wasn't playing terrible, what we saw start to happen more and more with his game as 2023 went on, and especially when he came back in 2024, is the suffocation of his game, the paralysis of fear take over his game. And it showed itself like in small bits, even when he played well in 2023, right? He doesn't like this. This is probably the throw that 2020 Deshaun makes, right? If you want to know what 2020 Deshaun does, 2020 Deshaun is so confident when he sees this and this, and he knows he has this, that the second that he doesn't see, that he checks to make sure that these two safeties aren't going to be in the way here. And let's see what those safeties do. Yeah, that safety backs up. This safety crunches down. So the second he sees that, right, in 2020, and this is why 2020 Deshaun was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, the second he sees this, right, in that pre-snap shift, he's going to be confident the second that David puts that foot in the ground, turns around for the ball, that ball would be right there, and that probably would have gotten to the 10 or the 5 or scored, and that's what elite quarterback play looks like, right? What you would have loved him to do, okay, maybe you don't have the confidence to rip that, but when you see, you know you have this out, this DB is dropping, this linebacker is flat-footed, you should see that and feel confident in ripping that out there and getting that first down on the 2nd and 10. That's what a good quarterback would do. And this is what you expect right here, what he does on this play, which is fine. It's not the worst thing you could do. But this is what I mean when there's like levels to quarterback play, right? So a great quarterback, an elite quarterback hits David Njoku there, right? That's an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Starting level quarterback at least finds Amari Cooper there, moves the game. And then, you know, Case Keenum, you know what I mean? Average to below average guys, you want them to at least get this, right? Which is just throw the under and get something. Now, I'm not trying to trash him or anything like that. I think there's some legitimately great throws in this game. But if we're trying to diagnose where the problems happened with Deshaun Watson in his game and what went wrong with his game and what to ascribe blame to and how his game went the way that it did, it's important to recognize that those problems that pop up in 2024, they didn't come from nowhere, right? I know a lot of times we like to talk about it as if these problems just manifested out of the blue, but these are problems that showed themselves in smaller ways earlier. And like, you know, it's like a bug problem, right? You might have 1 or 2 bugs fly around and you don't really think much of it. You kill them, you get rid of them. But usually when there's 1 or 2 bugs flying around, that's a sign that there's a much bigger problem that you're not noticing yet. And eventually that will come to head if you don't take the proper precautions. And looking at Deshaun Watson's game, we know what it eventually becomes in 2024. So, like, what led to it? Was it just Kevin Stefanski's offense and his style of coaching, or was it just signs that his confidence in his ability to do stuff, even when he was fully healthy, just wasn't there anymore? And I think that's more or less the case because, again, we have a healthy Deshaun Watson. He has these looks. I know that, like, Kevin's not telling him to hold the ball for 3.5 seconds and then throw the under. Like, these routes are in there to beat certain looks that they're getting. So the expectation is that he does make some of these throws. So it can't just be Kevin, right? You know, I think it stems from a lack of confidence, right? When I watch him in 2020, when I watch him in the Houston Texans jersey, and I watch him in the Browns jersey, I see 2 different men in terms of confidence. And this play is a example. And you're not going to talk about it because it's not a huge disastrous play. It's not even a bad play. But you can see when you dig into it, the bigger problems that could come ahead, or at least it foreshadows that now knowing what we know, right? Because, again, you see this from his perspective. I mean, you even get a bad shift from this linebacker. Like, this ball should have fucking went to David, man. like you would want Deshaun to be who Deshaun used to be, which is Deshaun would rip this shit right to David. Boom. Maybe David's eyes don't get around fast enough for his liking, which I can understand a little bit. But even then, I would still just trust it and rip it. But look at that distance there. Look at that space there. You get that ball to David Njoku, that's going to be something, right? Now, on David's part, could he have gotten his eyes around a little bit earlier? I think so. But Deshaun should still rip that, you know? Instead, it's like he went into this play knowing that I don't want to risk it. I just want to throw it to Moore and see what happens there, and just went to Moore. It's not a bad result, you know what I mean? But it kind of foreshadows what starts to break down with this game in the future. A little play action here. I don't know why I left that one in. We'll skip it. All right, shotgun. This is a good throw here to Peoples-Jones. Now, this is what you like to see, right? So 1, 2, 3, clean drop, and a nice rip over the middle of the field. It looks like it levels right here. Again, who makes the decision for you? You let the defender make the decision for you. Deshaun's probably watching this triangle right here to decide what to do here. The concept is levels. The tight end doesn't really run it that well. 84 kind of runs this high. Feel like you want to just be here, and then you're running this level here, because what are you doing when you're running this concept is you're attacking the space in between routes, right? You're attacking this space. So this tight end does kind of condense this space here because he cuts it real close to where Peoples-Jones is. But fortunately, the linebacker here does a pretty shitty job in coverage because he just kind of hugs this space here and sits flat, which means that he had no depth. He didn't play his depth properly. He kind of lost where he was. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't hear the play call or something like that. He's just chopping his feet. I don't think he knows where he's supposed to be. But, yeah, he kind of sits flat here. Deshaun identifies that. And then, again, this is what we talk about. Just rip it. Boom. Don't even think about it. That's really nice. You know, that's the kind of confidence I would love to see from him on a regular basis. That would tell me that he's back to being closer to what he used to be. You know, I think all the things that we talked about with Deshaun, the physical, the mental, all of that, the biggest drop off has been the confidence. And I think that's where he's fallen off the most, as a player. This is another dump off here to Kareem Hunt. Now, I don't think this is Deshaun's fault. This is just one where I would like to ask the question, like, hey, what happened here and why didn't we see it? Not like in an accusatory, like, why didn't you see this? You should see this kind of way, but more in a way of like, hey, was nothing in the play that would make you check that part of the field in this situation is more of what I'm saying, right? So this feels more like an institutional failure here. And what I mean is, again, you get this look here, watch the bottom of your screen. It's wide open there. Now that happens sometimes, and then you look at it, you get the screenshot, they'll show you this little picture on the sideline, and you go, okay, we see that look again, we'll check into this, and we'll run this, and I'm just going to dart it out to Elijah Moore, and get those free yards here. So sometimes it just happens, it's part of playing football. But, yeah, the only thing is when you're in pre-snap, you're wondering who's covering Elijah Moore here because he is in the slot. Who does he end up going the ball to? Well, who did he want to hit here? Let's try to figure that out. Who are they trying to get here? It looks like he just wanted to get this ball to, I think they were it's 2nd 18. They're 10 yards back. They didn't want to take a risk. So he just predetermined that he was going to throw this to the running back. And again, is some of the conservativeness with Deshaun him making decisions to not turn the ball over pre-snap and just basically making that decision that I'm not going to put the ball at risk here no matter what? Which, hey, look, you're up 23. It's fine. Or is this how Kevin wanted him to play? That's the real question that you have to ask. I don't really have to answer until I see how Deshaun looks in Todd Monken's offense, But that's the real question here. But let's look at some of the more exciting throws that he had in this game, right? That's the short stuff. He's still, at this point of his Browns career, he's executing this stuff fine, but he never really demonstrated a mastery over this, over the kind of like West Coast principles that Kevin really liked to run. It wasn't a great fit for him. He was trying his best at that point to be that guy, but he just wasn't a West Coast guy. Now we get to see him kind of stretch out, throw the ball a little bit deep. Let's see what happens here. It's a nice rip here to Amari Cooper. Again, they were showing a too high shell, ends up being quarter. This is a fine result here. Unfortunately, on the backside of this play, I'm not criticizing Deshaun Watson here on this one. This is more or less like just for educational purposes. If you want to know why people are like, why elite quarterback play is just so hard to find and get and so valuable, elite quarterback play is somebody who can identify this right here and then rip this ball to David Njoku. Obviously, I'm not expecting Deshaun Watson to do that. And I'm not going to negatively grade him because he didn't do that here. But like, just for educational purposes, for people who like are trying to understand what is so special about elite quarterback play, this is the kind of stuff, right? Where you could be in a play, the plan is to go here, and that's going to be a good plan. It's going to get you a first down. But then you can identify something like that, rip it, and then make that big play, right? That's the kind of stuff that the best quarterbacks do, that Joe Burrows do, where it's like, not only do you have to be perfect where the design of the play is going, where this is where we're trying to attack on this design, but you have to be perfect. You have to force all 11 guys to be perfect all the time, right? That's the best way I could describe elite quarterback play and why it's so important. Elite quarterbacks force all 11 guys to be perfect all of the time, and that's really hard to do. Somebody's going to mess up somewhere, right? But guys like Tom Brady, they can suss out that mistake that the defense is going to make. The one person out of the 11 who's going to make a mistake, and he can get the ball there, right? And that's why Tom's the greatest of all time. So great quarterbacks can make that matter. Quarterbacks who can survive in the league can make 6 or 7 guys have to be perfect in order for the defense to be successful, right? And in bad quarterbacks, obviously reduce the number, right? But that's a kind of simplified way. Obviously, there's more nuance to it. It's not a perfect one-to-one analogy. There's no such thing that will ever be that. But if you're wondering, when you watch these videos, like, oh man, what's the difference between a good quarterback, a great quarterback, an elite quarterback, and like a good one and then like a bad one? It's how much pressure they put on the defense to not have any mistakes whatsoever in order to be successful. And right here is an example of like, oh man, like, this is the kind of shit that Joe Burrow does where he sees a safety stumble and he's able to redirect, fire, and then get a big ass chunk play. And it's like, what are you going to do about that, right? But here for Deshaun, this is a fine result. This is exactly what you want, right? Off coverage, Amari does a great job pressing in, getting his foot down, and this ball comes out a little late, but it's fine. Amari got enough space on that route, and then boom, right where it needs to be. Good job there, Deshaun. All right, empty here. This is a great job. Great play call. I remember Kevin basically called this in as a beater. They saw how these linebackers were playing here and basically decoyed, ran a double move here. This is what they plan to do. Deshaun executes. Perfect. It's exactly what you want to see. Good throw, good execution, great play call. Way to go there. And good protection here too, right? Browns defensive line holds up. This is when Joe Bitonio still had it. Look at him. Look at Joe Bitonio, man. Battling with Big Jeffrey. Jeffrey almost got loose, but he held him long enough. Ethan Posick was doing a little bit of work there. You know what I mean? Boy, I hope the offensive line. Look at that symmetry they're showing on this side, though. Look at this. Look how they handle this little stunt here on this side. You know what I mean? I remember when the Browns' offensive line used to be able to look like this. I hope we get back to that soon. Look at that, just beautiful cross exchange, pick up. Oh, it's so clean. It's a wall on that side. Even Jed doing a decent enough job holding up against that bull rush. This offensive line will fall apart later this year, but man. Oh, it used to be beautiful. We've forgotten already how beautiful that line was in 21 and 22 and 20. All right, 2nd and 9 here for Deshaun Watson. And I think, this is where I'm most excited about him in Todd's offense is some of his best stuff is when he's attacking these boundaries, right? And if you want, ask me my opinion on what Todd Monken's going to do very differently from Kevin. Is Todd is going to want to attack vertical and he's going to want to attack outside the numbers more often, right? So think of it like this. This is the simplified way that I describe this to people who are trying to get a grasp on this. When you play Madden for the first time, right, this area of the field is terrifying to you, right? Because there's a lot going on there. There's a lot for you to decipher, and a lot of people don't know enough football to be comfortable attacking that middle of the field. So what do you do when you're new to playing Madden? You attack the boundaries, right? Because this is a real simple part of the field, right? Because you just have to read the safeties. And this is in Madden. This is not in the NFL. I'm not describing NFL quarterback play right now. But you just have to read the safeties when you play Madden. and you have to just read these boundary guys, right? So anything that's going to this part of the field, much easier for you to identify. See, the way that Kevin drew up his offenses is a very much kind of like a binary way. If this, then that. And a lot of that would attack spaces in the middle of the field. What Todd is shown himself to simplify quarterback play, what he likes to do, is basically get you away from the noise, right? We're not going to attack this as much, but we are going to attack this area in that area, right? Sometimes with this wide receiver, sometimes we're just going to run outs, right? But we're going to get the ball away from where the most defenders are. This is also because Todd Monken likes to run the football. And if you have a healthy fear for these players about the Browns attacking these numbers successfully through the air, then what does that do to the run defense, right? It makes it have to kind of spread out because now you're worried about a threat here. You're worried about a threat here, so you can't just condense everything into the middle of the field. That's what I think Todd Monken's going to do, what my money is on for Todd Monken to do. And when I watched Deshaun Watson when he was healthy in 2023, what he did best was vertically attack this part of the field, right? So that's what he was doing at his best when he was healthy in a Cleveland Browns uniform. Now, Houston Deshaun Watson was different. Houston Deshaun Watson was hitting the vertical push here, the vertical push here, and he was really great at killing these seams over the middle of the field. He's never had this in Cleveland, but this he does have. And we're going to see it, right? This is one of his best throws that he's ever made as a Cleveland Brown. Tight foot, little bit of pressure, gets rid of it. Beautiful ball to Amari Cooper. That's classic, good Deshaun Watson accuracy right there, right? Windy, look at that wind. Look at the flag here, right, when we get to this end zone angle. So then this was not an easy throw. I want you guys to watch this flag here. Look at the wind here. It's going both ways. It's pretty hectic. The conditions aren't great. You don't get a good feel for that watching this game 3 years later. But he gets here, little bit of pressure, gets that ball out, and just really confidently attacks those numbers, right? That is what I think Todd's vision of using Deshaun Watson looks like, is attacking the outside and vertical. And honestly, it's probably the same for Shedeur Sanders, who you would want to use in a similar way, because with Shedeur, we'll talk about Shedeur when we get to Shedeur, but either quarterback that's in this competition right now, that's where you would want to attack. So, yeah, that's why I think, when Todd does look at the tape here, he's going to say, no, that's what I want to do with Deshaun. I'm going to want to just push and attack these vertical numbers, give him outlets there, and then build the offense off of that, and hopefully he's successful enough. This is another throw here. This is a beautiful toss here. And look, if he can make throws like this in 2026, because this is a throw that he was not capable of making in 2024. His arm looked shot in 2024. But off this hash, right, because look at where his hash is. Look at where his hash is. Look at where his feet are. His feet are on this hash. And he throws this ball downfield to the opposite side. If he still has this ability to push the ball that he had before injuring himself, there's something that could be there. The big question, though, is that if that's the case, I can believe that he's healthy. I don't know if healthy means that he's going to be able to replicate everything that he did before he was injured. I think there's a chance that he could replicate more of what he could when he was injured, before he was injured, than he could in 2024. Let's say he was 60% of where he was here in 2024. I think it's possible that in 2026 he could be 80% of that, but he needs to be 100% of that, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff that he needs to be capable of. And this is really nice, right? It's a shame that he hurt his shoulder here and we never got to see what this version of him could do with the full season, Because he had some good throws here, right? Like, look at this. Here, 20-yard out. That's a laser, right? This one right here, this ended the game, right? Beautiful ball to Amari Cooper, touchdown, chest bump with Kevin Stefanski. We thought we were on our way to actually getting what we traded for. And that was the high point. Well, not the high moment, but that was the best game that Deshaun had as a Cleveland Brown. There are some issues that I still worry about popping up with him. Certainly, you could tell that Kevin's offense even then wasn't a fit, especially when we look at some of the short throws that he was asked to do. That's where his game was the most sloppy, was in that area of the field. When he's attacking the numbers and pushing vertically, I think that's where you saw the best of what he's going to do. So I do think Todd is going to ask him to do what he was able to do in 2023 well more often. But the big question with Deshaun Watson is that it's not 2023 anymore. He has had these injuries. And while he is healthy, it's no guarantee that he's going to regain his health to the point to where he's able to physically be the same guy that he was in 2023 because he's still aged during that time period, right? He still did have those injuries, and there's no guarantee that you can get your muscles to the same amount of strength that it was before the injury and replicate the same kind of success. Health is weird in that kind of way. So, yeah, was there a version of 2023 Deshaun Watson that could have absolutely been successful in Todd Monken's offense if he stayed healthy? Yeah, I mean, he was successful in Kevin Stefanski's offense when he was healthy. But will that version be able to show himself? There are some things that give me encouragement. There are a lot of things that make me feel like we can't expect to be all the way there, but maybe we're not all the way there, but at a better place than we were in 2024. That's why I for my projecting, I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was in 2024 this year. If he plays, I think he will be better than he was, but I don't think it's going to be some kind of amazing result. I don't think it's what in my comp video, I had 2022 Carson Wentz as his high end and then Kenny Pickett as his middle. And I think he's going to be better than Kenny Pickett, but not to where Carson Wentz was in 2022. That's where I think he'll probably land. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.